Hola, hola. I'm Trek with two Ks,
And I am 3D, and welcome to Metaverses the Other Side.
brought to you here on the Gentlemen of Crypto Network. Just a heads up, this episode is before we had the idea of bringing the Twitter spaces to the Gentlemen of Crypto Network. And so that's why we're talking about the stuff that we're talking about in this episode.
I think your headphone died, mate.
Oh, dang. Is it back in now, or do I? Because I know if I try to go mess with it, it's gonna.
Yeah.
Just
You're
delete it.
much higher again. You just like half the volume.
Oh, dang. Yeah.
But it seems fine now. I don't know. Just had a loose connection.
No. I got old headphones, and every so often one of my headset, because it's a dual Bluetooth, like set up as dual Bluetooth, so each one can work independently. One of them shuts off sometimes, and I think that's what happened. But yeah, just imagine that. Like, there are proof of work chains that are so centralized that you can steal everybody's private keys and take all their Ethereum.
Yeah, and then to talk about how like even though like their merge they went through okay, nobody has talked about what this can mean for all the layer 2 solutions that got made to make it easier to transact on Ethereum, because Ethereum was proof of work, didn't have the transaction speed, and so on and so on. But now with proof of stake, that basically, not fully, but basically eliminates most of those use cases for all those second layer solutions. So Polygon and all those, so like Binance Smart Chain and so on, they suddenly not that useful. Like again, Binance Smart Chain is probably the one of those that's going to survive because it has Binance supporting them. But
Yeah.
it's just like Ethereum, ooh, we are the biggest. Now we go in and make a decision that basically cuts off 60% of what is built on our chain, because their token is built on their chain, but their subnet is not built on their chain. And then, yeah, it's.
Yeah. Now I'll talk about this for a second, because if you remember when Ethereum first came out, it was supposed to lower the transaction costs. And the way it was going to do that was by any major player could just build a side chain. And so these layer 2 solutions were designed to, like, Ethereum was designed to have them directly. That was the whole use case. Ethereum was going to be like a daddy chain. And then if you had a big whatever, you was on a side chain. And I remember the original white paper, they had like 4 or 5 pages of nothing but sidechain information and how it's supposed to work and all this other stuff. And it's basically dual chain systems with an interoperable bridge. It's all it really is, right? But so now if like Binance Smart Chain or someone, they want to do a side chain on Ethereum POS, all what they're doing is they're actually just, that bridge is now a watcher. And unfortunately, like you're saying, because Ethereum Foundation still has, I think it's 77% of the total supply, there has to be an approval amongst all of the stakers to say, yes, we want this new watchtower, or no, we don't want this new watchtower. And I do know a couple of the side chains that had came out within the past couple of years they're no longer operational. They have completely stopped because they did not get approved for watchtowers, and they did not put money into the Ethereum Foundation, or so the Ethereum Foundation is not voting to them. While I believe Binance, and another one, I can't remember the name of it, but I was just watching a thing on it last night. There's 3 major ones, side chains that they got approved. They are right now still proof of work chain, side chained to that Ethereum proof of stake. Their bridge is now watchtower. But if you guys remember the currency not Tether, the blockchain style called Tether, where it's basically tiny bits of, it's kind of the same thing as the Bitcoin Lightning Network, or using a Oracle bridging on like Tor or something like that. You have a bunch of different groups, and then you're kind of separating stuff up and just going through the different, like, basically watchtowers and how the systems work. Tether blockchain was that Ethereum just adopted the Tether blockchain. That's all that really is. And I think it was Zoltek was one of the first people that was basically saying that the Tether blockchain was really terrible because it's supposed to be for the IoT systems, and it was really terrible or whatever. And now he's using it.
Yeah, it often goes with that. Like you talk shit about shit. Like, have you seen this stuff about Vitalik talking, getting asked what do EOS even mean, and if he actually went out and stated like Ethereum on steroids, and that's like exactly what it is. When we look at it, but when you look at the fact that you're talking about with multi-bridge switching and like a blockchain that basically copy itself into being your own second layer solution. I don't know. I know you're a big Telegram guy, and I know you've been around there for a while. Have you looked into Tron, the open network from Telegram? Because they have totally changed the game on how you're gonna bridge it. Their smart contract system can talk together with like Solana, Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum. So you can be on Tron sending actions to Ethereum, receiving stuff on Tron.
I've heard about it before. I think I've looked into it when I was first doing like private paper. We were wanting to, before we made our own chain. But I think I wanted to make me better. It's like I remember when it's like auction, when the auction and Loki network first came out, I was like, terrible networks. And yeah, I think my headset just disconnected. My alarm went off, let me know that the space is going to be
auction is not a terrible network though. Again, every software maybe is bad in the beginning, but like again, if you look at what the auction team has built since they came into existence, they've built LokiNet, which is a second layer solution to the Tor network, which makes latency on the dark web way better. Like, so you don't have as much latency, and their goal is to make sure that you stream games or live stream on the Tor network without having latency problems. And they have come a damn long way there. Then they of course have their Oxen privacy currency, which is a kind of a fork of Monero, which is the best privacy currency out there probably. And then they have Session, which is a fork of Signal, just without any metadata. So you don't need a phone number, you don't need anything to sign up for it. Plus that all connections are 3-layer encrypted by the onion routing on Tor network. So like for a freedom person like myself, privacy person like myself, that project are doing amazing work.
No, I was going to say that they have absolutely come the way. I remember when I used to talk publicly about how terrible their network was, because when it first came out, it wasn't that great. They didn't really have good privacy either, but they were trying to get it in there and stuff. And now I use Session and stuff like that. And being a person who's actually tried to get the phoneless number of phones into the USA, before we had someone actually building them, there is now a company that builds them. But originally, to get a phoneless phone has no network, no phone number. It uses a hash as a phone number, but it uses other phone lines or towers around it to basically jack into the tower, and its network of some is doing interlace into theirs. You can't get that outside the USA into the USA. And it was only in 2020 when someone started producing those types of phones here in America, but they're still a tower-based phone, which means I have to have a network. They're not networkless like the Signal bouncers are. But I mean, so Signal, not Signal, Session, it coming out that same style of hash as a number of stuff. It just kind of proved more that the blockchain technology has more use cases with it. And you're right, they do use Tor, but I don't know if you notice on all of the session settings that you can actually have it run through Google. And so then you're no longer encrypted. So like when I talk to people on session, that's like the first thing I ask them, are you using Google services or Tor?
And then it's not fully true though. It's for, again, because Android embedded systems has some shit with pop-ups, like the pop-up notification area of Android is built so heavily into Google that if you don't use the sessions fast setting, which yes, allows Google pop-up services, then you don't get notifications through session unless session is open and running in the background of your phone. That don't mean that pop-up decrypts the information. It can, if you show like text and sender, you can go in session and take that off. Then it can see that. And because session is a privacy app, I only allowed it to show the sender, never the text in pop-ups anyways. So for me, it don't really matter, but that's where that comes in. Like even Telegram, if you download Telegram from outside of the Google Play Store, all of them will ask you if you are using a phone that don't have Google, because they should allow this notification, blah, 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 to run in the background. Otherwise you don't get notifications. It's all because that standard Google or Android is relying on too much old bullshit.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. But unfortunately, when you I actually rely on the no pop-ups. Like I used to have tons of notifications on my phone and stuff. And I got it set up now where the only thing that notifies me is certain text messages from certain peoples and phone calls. I don't get notifications for alarms. I don't get notifications for anything else. And I kind of rely on that now, where it's like, I have a lot more peaceful life just because my phone don't go off crazy. My phone lasts 3 days longer than it used to because I don't have all these pop-ups and stuff. Now on Android, there is another way to do pop-ups, but not many companies or places or peoples do it. And that's actually running a secondary application as a always on background application specifically for pop-ups. And it's something, I actually have 2 apps from China that do exactly that because they refuse to go through Google services. And so I have on my phone, and including Zao, that does exactly that. They actually run a separate app inside the phone as an always background service. And the only thing it does is give me a pop-up.
Exactly. There's ways around it, but me and you can probably sit here for hours on end that people in the audience here will think that we are lost, we're fucking spacemen or something, because that the majority of people don't go as deeply into this kind of thing as me and you does. And I know that I've followed you and for a long while, and what you've been doing with the cloudless paper and all that. It's privacy and stuff, like even using an Android phone that you just bought today, and the keyboard it comes with when you're typing messages. Not many people change that, so they're probably using a keyboard. Like, but still they think like, oh, I don't want things to track me. Like the keyboard is made by Google. Google track everything. Put 2 and 2 together, right?
Yeah. Like the computer I have, when the person that got it for me, when it came in, I was going through the stuff and I saw that Windows records your screen. It actually does it one snapshot at a time.
Yeah.
So if you have a Windows, the computer, and you type in a seed phrase, Windows got your seed phrase. No joke. That's why more websites, applications, or programs, when typing in sensitive data, never shows you that sensitive data. And that's actually why they started doing that. And because they saw operating systems were watching. I remember when I first, as a web designer, had to come across that thing where people were like, well, we want to use this. And they were like, the people wanting it, the company wanting it, they were like, we're afraid someone will look over someone's shoulder and see you typing a password and take your password. And then when I was talking to my other dev friends, they were like, oh, we do that for all of them because the computers do that. The computer will watch it and steal their stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh. And that was like 6 years ago.
And like even I know you know the story about John Mac, the old McAfee antivirus program. When he started that back in the day, that was like the antivirus program. Like every major company, every major person, every major thing that had a PC in their office, in their building, was running McAfee antivirus. The government went to McAfee and said, hey, dude, we need backdoor access. McAfee said no. They came to him and say, hey, dude, you're going to jail if you don't give us backdoor access. He said, okay. He gave them backdoor access to everything. But then they suddenly went to push him out of his own firm, and he allowed that. And then he just went public and said, if any of you try to touch me, I'm going to release the data I have from when you told me to build a backdoor. So I have 66 terabytes of data for all the most highly people in the world, because all of you fuckers used by antivirus. Leave me alone. For 9 years, that man was on the run until they executed him in Spain.
Yep.
For that. But like everyone has data, like really, like that's one of the major reasons that I always, even though people hate me for it, and I know people hate me for it sometimes, but I'm on the back of people like, are you using iPhone? You should consider using Android. Are you using Windows? You should consider using Linux. Are you using open source software? You should. Stuff like that. And I'm annoying, and I know people hate me for it, but when it comes down to it, that's the only way we can save ourselves from this tech nightmare today.
I do that type similar stuff. I'll see someone on an iPhone or whatever, and instead of saying you should use some, Android or whatever, I'll be like, hey, you know how that thing watches you, right? You know that thing listens to you, right? Or the Alexas and stuff like that. And I'm big on like, I'd rather tell somebody why it's bad without telling them what to do, because then eventually they'll come back up to me. They're like, so yeah, you're right. I was telling my Alexa something, and then I was getting added on my Facebook on my work computer, and it was like, yeah, because your work computer fingerprint is the same fingerprint as your Alexa, which would be your cell phone. So they're interconnected. Well, yeah, I might connect myself. It's like, okay, now you know what's up. And then that kind of experience normally opens them up.
You know how they're going to make money in the future? They're going to sell all that data to you once they run it through AI and basically sell you a companionship like your best friend with all your data. It's going to know everything about you.
That's kind of what TikTok already doing. Google has been doing that for years. Like there's a reason that just because that my mom, when I'm over there, talks about that she really wants this and this and this for Christmas, or that my sister wants this and this for Christmas. My sister's not even in the house. Then my mom goes to search it up on her tablet. And because that my phone connects to her Wi-Fi when I'm there, and she searched that shit up, then I go home and go on Google, and now I get those ads because that it tracks that somebody on the network, that could be somebody interested. It's ridiculous how deep that goes, and people don't see it. Like just the thing that every app that we ever installed on our phone probably asks you for, hey, do you want to share your contact list? If it just asks you for your phone number, I don't give a fuck. You can give your phone number out to whoever you want to. But if you're going to give my phone number out, please ask me first.
Right. Now, I don't let nothing see my contact. Actually, I think everyone should do two things. Okay. Like if you're on a phone, you should have a VPN running on the phone that's not inside the phone operating software. So like you should download a separate app just to do VPN, to run your entire phone through VPN. Then you should set your country to a country you are not currently in that is also not the US of A. The reason why I say that is because the EU has a really great law where if you're data is in one location, it's not supposed to transfer to the other location, even if it's your same data. Like, for example, all of my devices are in Sweden. If I get arrested today here in America, there's a Swedish law protecting my devices from being opened up. Also, I have a partial citizenship for Sweden. So at any point in time when I'm ready, I can renounce my American citizenship and take my Swedish citizenship. But if you just have, I'm a verified Swedish American from Sweden. And I've already, this happened 2016 or something. Basically, I collected a bunch of my family heritage, the peels. I got a bunch of peels that were no longer in Sweden together. And we started this big group, and we were on Twitter and Facebook and some other places. And some organization that works with Sweden, in Sweden, recognized it, saw what I was doing, and I got an official recognition. And because I can also prove my heritage to Sweden, because that was one of the things I had to be able to do to get, after I got the thing, I was talking to them, they wanted me to prove I actually was a peel from Sweden. And we have our family has a book published back when we came over to America. And so I was able to show that. It has my grandfather in the book. I was able to prove I was related to my grandfather. And so they were basically okay, well, you're able to become a Swedish citizen when you were ready. And at the time I was my mid to mid 20s. So I was well, I'm not going to do that right now. But so if your device is in another country and it's all within the EU, if it's in one country in the EU and you're in a different country in the EU, that data is not supposed to cross over. For example, Horton's coffee company got in a lot of trouble for exactly that. And they're in Canada, and they were tracking people outside of Canada, and they got in trouble for it. And even though, it's not their same law, but they have a similar law that does the same thing. Well, data is not supposed to leave the country. Only America is the only country I know of that doesn't have the law against that. So those are the two things you should do: VPN and running on device separate from
America, China, Australia, South Korea, and there was one in South Africa you also should be careful of. But other than that, you're pretty good to go. European countries definitely has one of the best privacy laws in the world for now still.
I think it's funny. It's they're still part of the 11 Eyes, but you're right. Their privacy laws are way better than all of these other countries.
And then 9 Eyes, 11 Eyes, all those, they share information between each other, but we have made it, especially in the EU, much harder to get different parts of data. They still share data. Again, if somebody can come with a FBI warrant or CIA warrant or somebody, something for me, most of the companies in Denmark and such will legally put out whatever they can of that information, but that information needs to be used and searched on in Europe. They don't send it to the US for them to do an investigation. They need to send a team over here to access the data to do that. So we don't share the data that way, which is it's a huge, because then they need to travel over here, and if they're not certain that this is terrorist actions or whatever, they're probably not gonna send a team over here to investigate. If they just could connect to a SSH access and see everything, it's much easier to just, pickpocketing and look after shit than actually do real research.
Yeah, absolutely. And for the most part, what that will do with your device in another country set, stuff like you were talking about when you connect to your mom's Wi-Fi. If you weren't connected to your mom's Wi-Fi, that would solve a lot of problems right there. But B, the ad data won't transfer over. It'll still be in your phone. So you'll still see this stuff on your phone. But then when you log into your browser on your computer, which obviously is set to a different country, it will then not show up in the same way. And I think that's little things we can do to keep our privacy is really important. And when it comes to how privacy works with the technology we're using, with metaverses, the blockchains, the cryptos, the apps on our phones, It's more important than people realize. And it freaks me out when people just sit there and like, I don't see a reason for the privacy. And it's like, all right, fine then. Let me turn on my Wi-Fi catcher and let me start catching your Wi-Fi that you're pushing out all the time because you have a Bluetooth device.
And just even better. Only people that are doing sketchy thing needs to be private and blah blah blah, or it needs privacy or encryption or that matter or private transaction on the blockchain. And it's like, can I get a spare key to everyone's house here and your address and your passwords to email and all that? If I can't, then you are concerned about privacy in some way
Yeah.
or matter or form.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
I did a web.
well, key. Give me a key to your email. Give me a key to your house. Give me I'm maybe not going to use it, but now I have the access to. So again, you can't blame me if I suddenly sitting in the couch watching TV.
Right.
But maybe I'm not going to do that, but maybe I am. So just consider what the fuck, sorry, what you are saying yes to online, what kind of apps you're using, what kind of restrictions those apps have. Yeah, it's a whole thing people really should think about. But again, I get it. It's a whole nother thing. Like, oh, do I really need to concern myself about this? And
yeah, it's funny. Like I see the younger generations, they don't have a problem thinking about that kind of stuff with digitalized stuff. So, what I do, like I had a web show just like 2 weekends ago, because I have a web show on PT Live every other Sunday. My last one was another privacy oriented one. And I was like, here's a great way to explain privacy to people, digital privacy. Take your money, put it in a clear thing around your, like that you can put around your neck on like a clear bag on a lanyard, put it on around your neck and go walk around the shadiest parts of town you have with all of your money shown on your person out in the open. I mean, and a lot of people, they'll go, oh, well, I'm not even going to do that. That's how you get mugged. That's how you get beat. I was like, exactly. That's how problems occur. Now, if you're not paying attention to your privacy, you're getting the exact same thing. You're putting your money in a clear package, putting it around your neck to make sure everyone can see you got money. And yeah, with metaverses, one of the things that we've noticed is there's a huge number of somewhat open source metaverses that are completely centralized, and they are doing open text storage. So this is something that me and Trek have just been trying to figure out how to tackle. But they're open text storage. And so one of the things I've been doing to try to figure out how to present to companies to stop doing this is I'm actually writing a JavaScript terminal. I've been doing it for like almost 6 months now. And I'm getting to a point now where it's date commands and various different things. And what I want to do is it's going to be able to store your data, either open text or hashed data, and show just how easy it is to have the change from open to hash, and using JavaScript as the showpiece. It really is going to be easy to do just because, it's as simple as A to B on JavaScript. But also at the end of the day, hopefully this ideal that we're doing, it will be its own terminal metaverse. So it's one of the first metaverses where it's all with the keyboard and not with a mouse, but also that will allow you to be able to use it on a cell phone. It has the lowest end tech on it, but it's going to be able to do stuff like present ads. It's going to be able to, connect your entire website. Like I've actually been working on the code where it translates your website into just the text. So it's like pulls it, cuts it, and pulls in just the text. And like one of the things I've been talking with for 2 days is getting all the date codes from that text and just making sure it comes out right. But yeah, so like it's insane how much privacy is needed, but at the same time, most metaverses are not thinking of it. So if you're out there and you're going to build a metaverse, again, I'm going to say this now because I'm going to have to close out this space in probably about 15, 20 minutes. We have a metaverse toolbox that me and Trek and Mr. Rozier has built, and it's free for anybody. After we get done with the space, I'll actually put it as a comment underneath this actual space. posting so everyone can find it. And it will allow you to do everything from building a Solidity contract completely without knowing code, to building your own metaverse, to building a metaversal room without code. But we also go a bit further. There's also some code where you can actually search through the tools of like, hey, I just want to be able to do some code. Or if you're completely a coder ready person, you can click code ready and get that high end, top of the line stuff. Like we actually have remixes in there. I think everybody knows Remix if you work with Ethereum. That is the Ethereum IDE online. And we have other different systems on Open Cyber and Spatial and fun systems to really make yourself stand out. And as more of like common people start doing metaversal things, I really think it's going to push the ideal of what a metaverse is to what we all want it to be, where it's more interconnected and stuff like that. And I see Christo of Crypto is in the house. What up, bro? Sif? So glad to see you come in and make it. Now, if anybody else has anything else want to say, normally last 15 minutes or so, we just kind of let anybody say whatever. So please just jump in. Let's get this going.
Well, hey, I'm glad to have met you and found the space through Danish, and I'm sure I will definitely be back for more. So glad to have found you.
Awesome. Glad to meet you. I'm actually going to follow you and the missus while you guys are here. I'm going to follow everybody on here if I'm not following you already. And I did notice it, but I hadn't said nothing. Miss Danish Crypto is also in the house. We got some good peoples here, some good devs, some good, I know we got Metaverse workers, because I'm one of them. Mr. Christo is a good Metaverse worker. I think ACU5 has done some Metaverse work too. Mr. Danish, and man, some good crew showed up today. I appreciate everybody for coming in. And again, still, if anybody else wants to say anything, just hit the speak and let's go.
I'm about a year off from touching anything metaverse. I've just been fucking trading. So I'm still trying to figure out what the fuck's going on in the space while taking a year off from the metaverse. Well, it's a bear market, so I wasn't focused on any of the projects, and I've been off of Twitter about, so if anybody has trading questions, though, I'm pretty spot on everything with that. Full-time trader for the past 7 years now.
I saw you just retweeted something with Adam Beck. That's I was talking about him the other day because people was like, oh, this guy and this guy and this guy is Doge, and it's like, have anyone ever looked at Adam? Because he has a really, really weird history. Well, but I just already saw your retweet some of his shit, but he's definitely an interesting subject to put at Satoshi, that's for sure.
He's the hash cash maker.
Yeah, I wouldn't put him as Satoshi. I'd put Halfpenny as Satoshi, personally. But Adam Beck does have a lot to deal with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that either. That's cool.
We can say Finney is Satoshi maybe, but again, Adam was the one that's still alive. Yeah. Then we have the one from Chainlinks. He's also still alive and was the one that made smartcontracts.com before the original white paper of Bitcoin was launched. But also Adam today, and since the disappearance of Satoshi, has been working at blockchain, the blockchain.com or .org foundation as a coder, which would make sense because he is an amazing coder. But if you look at GitHub, Adam has not made any code suggestion updates or anything since he got hired. And when we look at the idea that Satoshi never moved his coins because that will crash the whole system. But if anyone thinks about it, then if Adam was Satoshi, he got hired by the the Blockchain Foundation to to get paid out there, so he never needed to move his funds. That's probably why he never have done anything since he got the job, or at least not on GitHub, which is where most developers show that they actually do their job.
Now I got something to add for you guys. If you guys want some crypto history here, in 2016, there was an Australian man who got into a gunfight with his local police, and around his neck was a aircraft grade aluminum USB, and it was suspected to have contained about 1 million Bitcoin of approximately 50 different Bitcoin wallets, as stated by his wife at the time. And basically, he was one of the highest in encryption experts. And he was actually one of my mentors when I was younger. That's why I know about this, because when he got into the fight, it was on the TV at the place I was working at, which was on Military Post in America. And I had to take off. I had to go and, call it, I couldn't call, but I emailed his family and I had to give my grievances. And I honestly believe if anybody was Satoshi, it's that guy. Mostly because his family did not have the code to the USB. And at the same time, the original 1 million Satoshi that was mined with the Satoshi ounce is 50 or more individual wallets. Now, we say 50 or more because we can only see which ones had that ounce. If they've been announced to the blockchain, you can send on Bitcoin, you can send coins to wallets that have not been announced, which is fun. But until they get announced or even swept or anything like that, we won't know if they have the Bitcoin or the Satoshi ounce on it. Now, I do like the idea that you're talking about with Adam, because he's been in the crypto game for a long time. I remember when I got in high school, when they were Rooter coins and stuff like that. And then he came out with Hashcash. He made all of the chat rooms, like everybody sparked up back then. Everybody was like, whoa, look at this. How does that work? And what about the end? Back in those days, we used to do stuff where if you used Hashcash, you would actually put down, you would submit it to the website, like what your hash was. And so that way, if 2 or more people had the same hash, the other people would know, okay, that hash is already being used here. I can't reuse that coin here, because even back in the day of Hashcash, we did have problems with duplicate hashing, which was the only downfall to Hashcash.
Yep.
Yeah.
The double spending, yeah, man. Again, it's funny when we look at the history, because Hell's Benny, Adam, I can't remember, he has a weird down name. He's also NF, the guy from Chainlinks, he's called something, Satoshi, something, Necro Satosha, or something like that. But all of those guys work together in the beginning, but most of those guys don't have previous history in trying to create digital currencies. So there is a really weird history there. But again, no matter who Satoshi is, like if it's one of the other, if it's if he's dead, if he's still around, like, but still, like, the whole thing about those guys, like, we all know, like we saw, well, like some of us saw what happened with Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin ABC, but like so many people have trying to prove it. We know some people knows who this is, or like who this was. There's no chance or there's like a 10% chance that nobody of the initial people there was on the Bitcoin Talk forum and the cypherpunk mailing list, and those, none of them knows who Satoshi really is. There is somebody that knows who Satoshi really is. And for somebody to be able to keep that secret for now almost 15 years is yeah, damn amazing, I would say.
Yeah, I have to admit, like being in those original IRC chats, and I can say I'm one of 30, which means I was like one of the first 30 miners to mine Bitcoin. And even then, we really didn't know who Satoshi was. And back then, when we were still a small niche group of people, we all would be one of a number, and that number would be the tens of number that miners were existing. And the ideal behind that was, well, what obfuscate who actually is Satoshi? And from my experience, I believe that there was 13 people that actually had their hands in writing the Bitcoin white paper. Just if you go read it, you can see the way stuff is written in terminology wise or vernaculars and stuff. It changes every few paragraphs. And it's a couple of times those similar vernaculars come back. And I know there's a lot of British ties into it, everything, as well as there is some Indian, like Hinduish ties into some of the vernacular. And I think that kind of shows what it really is. It's a bunch of old stuff being put together for a new task, right?
Also, bro, they're creating something. They're creating something with cryptography, bro. So they're also got to be cryptic on the way that they set this thing up. That whole fucking Bitcoin forum talk that they were all involved with, that could have just been for a show. You know what I mean? When they were using something else in the back door, just
It definitely could.
you got to give a narrative of a story, especially when someone's, keeping $1 million in reserve. You know what I mean? There could be actually no Satoshi. It could just be AI, which is another thing that I dug really deep in, and so fucking deep. I have an interview that, some guy I talked about fucking actually took my interview with him and used it as a speaking point on a huge network that actually shook up the whole fucking market back in the day. So there was a whole bunch of
it is definitely a thing. Again, it's the second most amazing thing invention happening in the last couple of hundred of years. The first one was the internet, like the first really freedom of revolution. But that whole thing, the internet, got made by the military. That's a military grade invention to make sure that the military had global communication, even if they ended up nuking the whole world. So they needed a system.
But that's not actually true. The internet was actually invented by two colleges that were trying to communicate, and then the military bought it off of them.
Yeah.
And then when the guy came up with the system that could allow it to work through the phone lines, he opened it up because he wasn't even in that group with the military people. The military, he was completely independent, just heard about it and came up with the code that did it for BBSs to really flow better. And he was like, well, I'm not going to sell it. I'm just going to release it. And that's actually how the internet happened.
Yes, but they still the internet evolution was the military, because the military was the ones funding the internet ground foundation, like the ground cables over the ocean, stuff like that. And
yeah, that's true.
It's funded by the military and built in a way like the original invention of the thing is not made by the military, but they improved it and made it so it is what it is today. But the internet is made to withstand a nuclear blast from both Russia, Asia, and the US at once. So the internet will be able to sustain working after that, maybe not without a name, but it's still functioning. So that's the biggest thing to the human evolution ever, because there's also freedom of application. But then we did Bitcoin, which is the second biggest evolution for human mankind since modern civilization. And that also is so mystic, so futuristic, so perfectly built that either it's AI or it's military grade CIA, FBI's build stuff. But again, then it isn't just a whole hoax scheme that the CIA and stuff built to build a system that they pay for missions and stuff in a safer way without banking interruptions? Or is it, again, freedom fighter trying to make payments available for the world and stuff like that? Because why did Satoshi then become anonymous? Everyone that tried to make currency before Satoshi got executed, because if you try to take over the US dollar, that's a national security issue. Yeah.
Well, if you Notice Bitcoin's actually backed by the US dollar right now, believe it or not.
Yeah, today because the majority of the influx in the bargain by USDT, which is USD stablecoin, which is supposed to be backed by like every UST in existence should be backed by $1 in the vault, which is
Nope.
never never the case.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be that. So yes,
Yeah.
the markets hold up with fake money from a fake system, and that's also why I'm so afraid that we are doing CBDCs and we are relying on stable coins, and why I'm so terrified that the whole market is running on like the hype of Doge and Shiba Inu, not good projects. Don't get me wrong, like if people made a lot of money, congrats to them. And I love people making money and blah, blah, blah. It's good. We changed the like people from street crooks to millionaires. It's probably a good thing, but the projects that have made the most impact in the world is like in the crypto space. It's shitty projects. It's meme coins. And as a tech lover and as a crypto lover and all this, it fucking hurts to see that the market is run by meme coins. Like meme coins do better than big, really innovative projects that try to do some freedom of speech, low-key net, all those. They don't get any traction basically, but they're really doing something.
It's the marketing, bro. And so, you're going to see those things come and go though, but then it's all about longevity. Nobody really knew what the fuck Bitcoin was for a while. It's the same thing with these other projects that are actually out there that are good. You're not going to know what the fuck they are because they don't have the marketing. They don't have the use case right now, but a lot of people are building for the future itself. And for them to gain, like, nobody's going to understand why they're raising money also until the time becomes when the technology catches up. I was talking about NFTs and fucking putting music and all this other shit all in the Ethereum blockchain 5 years ago. If you look up Trekking to Connect, episode 18, I did a podcast with him. Everything I fucking said in that episode 5 years ago all happened today. Literally every fucking thing. And it's all based on what I'm researching on. Back in the day, you knew what projects were coming out because there was only a select handful. Now there's thousands and thousands and thousands to file through, but they'll all sort their way out. If it has a definite use case and the people have, the people accept it, they're going to find the funding. It's, 90% of this shit.
I hope so. And it's bad for me to see because it's definitely has taken like what I will call a overhand lately. Like again, the thing that smart people or people that I look at as smart people, and that's maybe a mistake on my end because I thought that Elon was a smart dude, but him pumping some shitty currency like Dogecoin, which again, if you know something about cryptocurrency, and I assume that most of us here do, and at least you two guys here, Bitcoin and 3D, you guys I know have a history here. So you also know that if every Litecoin miner shuts off tomorrow, and there has not been much progression on Litecoin for the last couple of years, so that's not so unlikely, Dogecoin will die immediately.
Yeah, they run on the backside of the Litecoin system.
Yeah,
exactly. So how can a millionaire genius man like Elon be promoting a coin like that cannot even survive on its own, and he's never talked about Litecoin?
Because if you think about it, man, he knows what's actually going to be happening here in the future. So there's the higher up you go, bro, the more information you find out, and that's
of course, but it's still just like that should trigger more people than just me. Like personally, I think maybe again it's just me and my weirdness.
He basically he's got over 51% of the fucking coins, so now he's running his own currency, which when money doesn't mean shit to you besides US dollars to run your businesses, what do you do for fun? You fuck around with fake money like Doge. So yeah, man, the guy can do anything he fucking wants with it. It's just fast transactions, low fees. It'll be used. If you remember, I don't know how long you've been around, but
I definitely, again, Dogecoin has a use case back in the day. But yeah, there was a reason that when exchanges first came around and we didn't want to send Ethereum or Bitcoin or whatever from a shitty exchange to another shitty exchange, we exchanged it to Dogecoin and sent that. It was cheaper, and the other exchange probably also had Dogecoin.
yeah, I would use Litecoin. And then I ended up finding out Doge was cheaper itself too, but I never did Doge just because I didn't believe in the project back in the day, because it was just a fucking shitty meme coin, you know? So I don't know if you guys know DJ Meat Popsicle. That guy, and he was mining while I was mining Litecoin, he was mining with the same miner, Dogecoin. So yeah, you're
No,
funny that the person mining Dogecoin would have made more money than the person mining Litecoin, which is actually a better project in itself. And the fork,
Yes and no.
the fork of
If you
it,
did it at the right time. Sorry.
yeah, the fork of it ended up becoming worth more. But the thing is, they did fork Litecoin. It actually made it faster. So what if you were to fork it again? You know what I mean? You can always speed up the transaction speed, fucking speed up everything else. And take away, you would have to take away security though over it. But people these days, they don't give a fuck about security. So you can make,
They will when the government suddenly shuts off their transactions, or somebody, but
or
again,
company.
that's the part we want to go away from. Like, again, just in the real world, like, oh, I get $5,000 on PayPal and I need to pay a ticket, and suddenly they stop my PayPal, they shut down, and I need to respond to 6,000 emails before I get my account back, and then I still need to wait 14 days to get my money that actually was sent to me. And it's like, oh, why?
yeah, the whole system.
Well, sorry guys, I actually have to go. I will say, crypto is how you make it and stuff like that, but also keep in mind, Dogecoin is to this day the most liquid currency out there. They have, you can pretty much take millions of dollars and put it into Dogecoin at almost any point in time, and there's a way to do it. But yeah, I have to go, guys. Everybody, thank you so much for showing up. I hope to see you guys next Thursday, same time, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Love you all. Have a great day. And again, this is pre-recorded, so if you guys want to share it out to everybody, let them know they can hear this awesome conversation